All right, but
Sweet.
get right into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Longley's Line Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Longley. Remember to like, follow, subscribe on all of those social medias. Stephen Longley for me, Longley's Line for the show, and Lightstyle Studio for our studio here. And as you guys know, we like to bring on different guests from all over the entertainment industry. And today is no different. Today I have Mr. Michael Werner.
How's it going?
Thank you for being here. Before we get going into anything, go ahead and promote your socials, where you want everybody to find you, things like that.
Sure. So I'm a photographer in Reno here, and I'm also a hand-drawn artist. You can find me on Instagram at Mick Werner, McWerner, with an underscore at the end, because that's how we always do it.
Yep.
And just find me on Google, Michael Werner Photography. And then my art account is MW Inkworks. Nice. And you can find all like my little doodles and drawings there. And yeah, just find that on Google and find where all my stuff is at.
Sweet. The easy one, just get the last name and you'll see it right there.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be good to go. So where are you from originally? We kind of talked about that. You were saying Northern California. What part?
I was from like the general Bay Area. I'm sure people will like correct me that like Fremont isn't the Bay Area or something like that. But I was born in Orange County. And then moved up there for a bit. Then my parents brought me here to Reno when I was like 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just kind of been here since then. I mean, I have like vague memories of California. I just remember like when I was a kid, I like loved dinosaurs. So like living in California where they have actual museums like all over the place. And you come to a place like, we don't really have that. We have like Rancho San Rafael. And I'm like, this isn't the same.
Oh, it's got dinosaurs.
It's got kind of. Okay, I will say that the new exhibit they have right now is not as good as it was when I was like 5.
I know.
Which is really disappointing.
Have you ever been to that light show that they have?
No, I never have.
We went to that last year and it's pretty cool. It's huge and they have actual like moving bugs.
Yeah, it seems pretty impressive.
It's pretty sweet. Like I wouldn't have expected it out of Rancho, but it's really interactive. Yeah, and cool.
Sometimes like Reno like will pop off with like something interesting. It's like, oh, all right, sweet, we have like a thing going on.
Yeah,
not to just besmirch Reno by any means. But
yeah, starting off hot.
It's come a long way since I moved here. When I moved here and like growing up here as a teenager, it's like there was not a lot. Unless you had like a car to go up to like Tahoe and you're like skiing and snowboarding, it's like not a ton, but it's definitely improved a ton in the last like 5 years, I would say. And it's made me like really enjoy living here.
When I was coming into, I lived out in Spanish Springs and there was a Burger King, 7-Eleven, the Albertsons.
Yeah.
And that was really it.
Yeah, that's definitely how it was. Like, so I lived in South Reno, like way south, like on the way up to Virginia City.
Yeah, okay.
And like there was like pretty much nothing. Now it's like, I remember when I was in high school, it's like, dude, we have a Maverick now. And it's like, you can like ride your bike there. That's like crazy. And now it's like, there's so much stuff there now. And it's just, Reno keeps getting bigger.
It keeps booming. There's now a Winco out in Spanish Springs, which kind of blows my mind.
Spread the good word of Winco. That's like my grocery store like haven. I'll never go anywhere else.
I'm actually going shopping when everything's done.
There you go. Perfect.
Going to Winco.
Plug for Winco.
Yeah, Winco, sponsor us.
Yeah, if you're in some place that doesn't have one, I'm sure you have an equivalent. But if you do have one, like praise your lucky stars.
Yeah, Winco is pretty sweet. So when younger, kind of growing up, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do for a living as a kid?
Yeah, well, definitely going back to the dinosaurs thing, I wanted to be a paleontologist.
Really?
That definitely was my thing until I think I was like maybe 8 or 9. Because I kind of like realized, I was a kid and I like loved, because who didn't, like I loved Jurassic Park. And I watched that movie so many times. And I realized I had much more of an interest in the like making of that. And the process of like how they put together all these things, how they made these models, how they made these CGI work and all that stuff. And through that, I got really into like wanting to make my own like little short films. Which I mean, even before that, I started like drawing when I was like super young. Okay. And that's like was my main hobby. And I would always like try to find an excuse, like, in school to like be doing things like that. Yeah. I definitely was not like a chronic like doodler in the textbooks. I wasn't that cool. I was a little too nice of a kid. But
no weird S's or anything like that.
No, those are the cool kids. I was like, to be like, can I like do this little like side assignment to like draw a little thing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I got really into that, and then like I was like making, when I was like super young, like 6 or 7, making like little toy movies and all that stuff, and then eventually I started like making like stop motion animation. So I feel like a lot of like guys I knew like went through that phase where you like learn how to like do like frame by frame animation with like action figures or whatever.
Yeah, inspired by like Small Soldiers.
I never saw that movie.
You never saw that movie?
I never did. I didn't watch a lot of stop motion like actual films.
Okay.
I mainly my main foray into stop motion was like the old stuff, like old King Kong.
Oh,
because then that when I was a kid, the newer one came out, the newer one that's like 20 years old now.
Yeah.
But like that's how I got into learning about how they made that movie and the original one. So I learned like stop motion animation through there, and then from that point, I mean, I just like started making whatever I found was cool.
Yeah.
And then into high school, I mean, well, before that, I decided I wanted to be in that industry in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
And going into high school, I just like was a part of my video production team. I was really into video editing. And then eventually I even changed high schools. I went to Damani Ranch in South Reno, and then I changed high schools to the Academy of Arts, Careers, and Technology, which is a much smaller school. It's like a trade school, but had much more of a focus on that kind of stuff. Okay. And I felt like way more fulfilled doing that. And then through there, I learned like more about photography, more about the actual like technical aspects of things. I feel like I was really focused on the creative. And then, from there, I, trying to figure out how to like transition that to college was a little bit difficult because I remember I wanted to go to UNLV for their film school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was like my college aspirations before I knew what college was like. and I had that on my radar for a little bit, but then I switched back to stay in Reno, and I changed my career outlook from there just like into healthcare actually. Yeah, so it's like been kind of a weird little like divot being like, oh, I like started out creatively and now I did healthcare for like 6 years.
Was it just kind of the thinking like long-term idea?
Yeah, definitely just like having something that I felt like was, like a secure job scene. And then also just like how much I actually realized how much I liked that like line of work of just like caring for people. Yeah. And I think that definitely has had like a bridge into my photography scene now. But yeah, I worked as a like just a general like when with no certification, you have to start somewhere. So I just worked as a patient transporter when I was like 20, which is great because I like met so many amazing people through there. Like we all could like kind of trauma bonded through like our job, and I'm like still like super close friends with like a lot of people I used to work with. But then that got me good insight of like the hospital and like certain jobs and things you could do. And then after that, I was like kind of like all over the place in my early 20s because like when I think
that's how everyone
everyone's like that. When I realized like how paying for college is going to work and like how it's going to like affect my future, I was like, all right, well, like what do I want to do? And like I liked the mental health scene, for lack of a better word, but I was very interested in that, and I wanted to at first be just like do general psychology, then I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and then just like school was just always like just like a lot to deal with because I always worked full-time while I was in school. And
I mean, you kind of have to pay the bills while you're also in school.
I wasn't like, I mean, not to like besmirch anyone who had the privilege of like not having to do this, but like I always had to work like full-time. Like I didn't really get money from my parents a whole lot, so it was just like doing a full-time job and full-time school, it like really, for lack of a better word, sucks. Yeah. It's not fun.
It takes a toll on you.
And it really like, I kind of sat there, and during this time I was still pursuing my creative endeavors. I started going up to Tahoe to just like shoot like the lake.
Just landscaping.
Yeah, just like landscapes. That's like kind of how you start. Because one of my friends who actually kind of introduced me to this like local photography scene was someone who I went to high school with. Oh, okay. So through him, shout out to Luke Taylor, who like I'm trying to remember, Digiman Studios. That's what he runs now, or he's a part of now. Yeah, they have a whole like video and photo team, which is really awesome. Like he straight up went into photography out of high school. And looking back on it, I really wish I did that. I really wish I did that a lot.
You think about those people that straight out of high school stick with what they're doing now.
Oh yeah.
Like one of the guys I played football with, he's my foreman in the electrician thing that I do because his dad runs the company. So straight out of high school, he's been doing it for 10 plus years now. I'm like, it shows why you're good at this.
Yeah. Well, that's like awesome. If you find like fulfillment in that, it's like great to see that. Yeah. Like, cause I remember, he was probably one of the most like knowledgeable people in my high school class. And then like we're like trying to plan like, oh, what are you guys doing after high school? I was like, I'm just like doing this, and like, what? You're not going to college? And then now it's like, yeah, that was the smart for him. That was a smart decision. Yeah. But anyway, so I like met more people through the photography scene through there. We would like go out to like Donner, Tahoe, all that stuff to like just take like night shots. Everybody gets like figures out how to like do the settings on their camera to get like the Milky Way. So it's like, oh, we have to go get the Milky Way over like Emerald Bay, which now that I think about it, it's not a very good angle because the Milky Way is like behind you.
Yeah.
But like anywhere on the lake. And like I just started doing that a lot more and like getting more in tune with like that, kind of community. Because before when I did photography in high school, there was like nothing like that.
Yeah.
Like I always think about it like kids who do photography now don't even know what it was like.
No.
Which also, by the way, I feel like I didn't really do a very good introduction to myself of what I do. I do primarily wedding and couples photography nowadays. Some branding stuff here and there, but I really try to focus on the like natural documentation of like couples and like how they interact and like their relationships, and definitely with weddings too. I definitely lean more towards the documentary style of that, where like a lot less posed stuff, but you really get a chance to like kind of like make art from like the mundane.
Yeah, keep it more natural.
Yeah, just before like I go like down this long line of explaining my story and be like, what does this guy even do?
Who is it?
So yeah, and that's like how I got into the scene, and through there I just like kind of made that like my thing I did in my spare time. And then around the same time I started drawing early in college when I was like at TMCC. When I was like, all right, well, I'm in Reno. I don't really know what classes to take. I'll take art, I guess.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah, and like there was one class that's literally like for 2 hours you just draw. And first, like one of the classes, I was like, I'm actually gonna try. I'm not gonna doodle. I'm gonna like take this photo of this thing and try to like make it as photorealistic as possible for like the fun of it.
Yeah.
And I was doing it in pen. Like
that's tough.
Yeah, I don't really draw in pencil at all.
Wow.
I'll sometimes do charcoal because that's like a little more messy, and you can kind of like, it's almost like painting with your hands.
Yeah, kind of like move it around and add to the background and things like that.
Yeah, you can like if you mess up, you can fix it. With pen, you can't.
Yeah.
So I was like practicing drawing portraits, and my teacher was like, "That's awesome. Just like come to class and do that." And I'm like, "Okay,
deal."
So I started doing that like a lot more in my freshman year of college. And so that became a hobby alongside photography while I'm doing all this stuff in school and my job. And over the years, I just found this like really newfound like support for that. Like I really feel like it created not just like, to me, it always felt like a relationship with yourself.
Right.
Where it's like I like say, for example, I want to draw a line or something, a line in like a certain design with like certain like accents to it. And it's like, cool, I'm going to sit down and do that. And the feeling of accomplishment of like sitting down and doing that was like an addictive feeling. And that's something that I really fueled that desire to go like further down that path and make that like, I want to make this a part of my life. Yeah. And about like 6 years ago, I started drawing like every single day and like posting more on Instagram. And then like all these people who like from like all walks of like my life are like, oh, this is super cool. Can you draw this? This is awesome. I'm like, oh my God, people like care about the things that I draw. That's like super sick.
A weird business aspect that you never thought about.
Or even like just like having like that support. Yeah. Like honestly, like having like, cause I was always creative as a kid, but I'll be like pretty honest. Like I had friends who like kind of got it, but like weren't like openly, supportive of that. Yeah. Like they weren't like hating on me, but it's like, I was like, it's young dudes. Like, dudes,
do your thing. I don't know.
Dudes take a while to be like, yeah, sure, whatever. That's like fine. I don't know. I mean, it's cool, I guess. Yeah. But
Can you draw me something?
Yeah. Like, it's like, I don't know. That's like kind of neat. I guess I'm going to go throw a football or something. I was not a sports kid at all as a young guy, which kind of sucks. I really would enjoy it now. Yeah. Like I was like, oh, it's so creative. But I was like, I really wish I like learned how to like properly do that stuff. Right. Because I'm doing it now, which is like fine. But like, I kind of wish I had that in the back of my head. But
what would you have gravitated towards?
Like as far as sports?
Yeah.
I played a little bit of basketball. I was like tall kid when I was younger. Now I feel like, is in my perspective, everyone's like my height. Right. But like when I was younger, I like had like a growth spurt. So I was like the tall kid. Everyone's like, you should play basketball. Like, I don't know how to dribble a ball.
Yeah. I will shoot the hoop, I guess.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan?
Yeah, right? Exactly. Well, it's like my parents were not athletic at all. My parents were musicians. Oh, okay. My dad was a musician until like 2008. So like he was like, yeah, like just draw those dinosaurs, whatever. Yeah. What's even like working out or not even working out, but it's like doing anything physical. Like they never pressured me into doing anything like that.
Right. So it came from the arts side.
Yeah, definitely. My parents were like, I mean, like obviously shout out to my parents, but like they were always supportive and like always they've never not been supportive of like what I do. So I'm always very thankful about that.
Yeah.
'Cause I know a ton of people who had to like overcome that. I'm very thankful to like have just like that just under my belt.
That's how my folks were too. My dad,
awesome.
he was always into sports growing up. So I've been like surrounded by sports from any aspect. And he's the kind of guy where it's like we focus on baseball, football, whatever it is. I played football throughout my entire high school career. Was like, oh, maybe I can do it in junior college because I'm not a very big guy, but I'm big enough. So it's like, oh, maybe I can do this. I'm little compared to everybody else that's out doing it.
It's they're like monsters.
A defensive lineman is 6'3", 300 pounds. I'm 5'10", 200 pounds. It's not going to work. But I still tried and I got it. My folks always supported anything I did. If I because for a brief stint I wanted to get into music producing.
Yeah.
So then they were like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead and do that, whatever you want to do, and would always support it even if they didn't fully understand it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's definitely how my parents were. I mean, like I think the heart definitely was there 100% because it would just be like, yeah, just like you're going to make movies. You're going to do that, right? I'm like, I think so.
Sure.
Do you know? It's like, I don't know. You're figuring it out, right? Like, sure. So
it's what I'm into now, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, even, so yeah, that support that came from like, just like that, like rush of that.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to like underplay because I do feel like that's a thing that like is always an aspect of this creative, like world. But like, I don't hear a lot of conversations about it.
Yeah.
Because like how much your support network like really matters.
Yeah.
And
because it really does. Because a lot of the times when you're getting into things, if you don't have even that little bit of support, not just from parents, but from like a community saying like, ooh, this is cool. This is nice. I like what you're doing. Then you kind of feel, a little discouraged.
Well, yeah,
and it can take it away from you a little bit.
Even on the other side, just like a sense of belonging too.
Yeah.
Like feeling like, oh, this thing, because like, especially with like creating an art form like painting or drawing, it's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
Because like I just came out to the gate just like, I just want to draw like what I think is cool. Like I'm going to draw like a portrait of this person, like, I don't know, like a skull skeleton design of like an animal or like whatever. It's like, I just drew and still am like drawing whatever I think is cool.
Yeah.
And having people just be like, that's super neat. I want to like buy that. It's like, what? That's like nuts.
Yeah.
So that like went along as I was like I said, going through like my early 20s and working a lot. And it just got to a point where like I was like gaining so much good from that world that I really thought like, what if this is like the thing that I do?
Yeah. And
I think once I learned people can like make money doing photography, which is so funny because looking back on it like 6 years ago, I'm like, yeah, you just like, people just pay you for like a shoot. That's how it goes. And like, I just had no idea like the function of it at all. But I was like, oh, that can like be the thing that I do.
Yeah.
With still having some aspirations to stay in healthcare. Cause like after I was a patient transporter, I was like sterile processing tech for about 3 years until I went full time with photography.
Wow.
So I worked nights while I did like edits for people's shoots and stuff like that, which was great because I made more money than I would like at a normal shift. Plus I had the time to do that because thankfully, again, going back to the support of people in your circle, like my bosses were like, oh yeah, you clearly want to do this.
Yeah.
You do a great job here, but if you want to work on that, that's cool, which I'm always like so thankful that I even had that. So
not the people that poo-poo on it.
Oh yeah, they're like, yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing on your break? Editing photos? Like, get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
Go back to decontamination.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, so I had that going on, and like I think school was just like, well, like how much student debt do I want to look down the barrel of?
Right.
And what's my job going to be at the end of this? So I want to like make like a decent living. And I just decided in like 2019 that I'm like, I'm not going to do the school thing anymore. I'm just going to like work and see if this creative endeavor goes anywhere.
Yeah.
Because I was making decent side money, and it was like, well, like if we have the time and the focus for it, we can just do that.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, almost 2 years ago, in like a month, I quit my job and I've been a full-time photographer since then.
Yeah. So. And how's that been?
It has been a ride because it's been really amazing. I really don't want to like underplay that because it is awesome. I've learned like I just like want to be my own boss 100%. Yeah. I do like the structure of like a normal job, but like also like I like that my productivity is based on my own discipline and all of that jazz. And I really like that experience.
You control your own schedule as opposed to.
Yeah. the transition that was huge was definitely like the loss of like consistent, like obviously the loss of consistent income.
Yeah.
Where like that like is a thing kind of like keeps you regular, where it's like, all right, cool, we're gonna make enough money in this 2 weeks, and then we have to take care of this, blah blah blah. That's just like gone.
Yeah.
And I had to like kind of like hit the ground running when it came to learning how to run a business like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Because sometimes, you know, when you talk to people in your circle, and I'm very thankful to the people who like kind of introduced me to like, you know, the scene and like all the different resources and people that I met. But like, it's not a one size fits all thing.
Yeah. You have to find your own path that works for you as well, too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, you know, what does that path even look like? Like, you know, sometimes like I took a long time to even find people who like I really feel like I truly connected with in ways where like, okay, like they are like me in this way, they can do this, okay, I can do that too. And, you know, again, it goes back to the whole support network, where it's like that is like the wind beneath your wings on this stuff. Because sometimes you're not always being thrown like, here's like a photo inquiry, here's a wedding inquiry. It's like not always that coming in, and you like have to be like, okay, like how do we make that be the thing that we get used to? And the one thing I've learned is it definitely starts from like a self-improvement aspect. You know, it's like on top of like, you know, the craft you're learning, it's also the like taking care of yourself enough to be able to show up for people, show up for yourself, which is like sometimes you realize like, oh, I've not really been doing a great job on that. Yeah. That's kind of like the thing we should be working on amidst running a business, which is like a whole thing and a half. So that's been mainly the journey over the last 2 years. It's been just like doing both those things in tandem and like kind of seeing what works.
Yeah, keeping your business afloat while also figuring yourself out.
Oh, yeah.
What works out for you.
Oh, yeah, entirely. And that's still like an ongoing process. I would say like in my brain, it's funny because people like, you know, I would assume maybe you're in this camp or like people would be like, oh, you've been like doing pretty decently as a photographer for the last like couple of years. Like in my brain, I'm like, it's been like 6 months, like 6 months in my mind, which I mean, like, I don't want to like, you know, that's kind of me putting myself down, which again, tallying that off is the thing I shouldn't be doing right now. But like
everybody's got the self-deprecation that comes in where it's like, I'm not doing enough. And then they ask you, it's like, well, what do you got going on? Well, I've been doing this and I've been doing this and I've been doing this.
Right.
Which hasn't been enough in my mind.
Exactly. And that's like a thing, you know, it's a tough thing to wrestle with, honestly. Especially when you're hard. Yeah. When you have like an expectation of just like getting to a certain point where, oh, this is like what being content feels like.
Yeah.
Am I there yet? Well, no. So like what I'm doing now is like not good enough. And it's like, you have to like kind of like take the time to meditate and like really think that over.
Yeah.
And that's definitely been like a huge part of like, you know, any success that I feel like I've had has been like working on those things.
Yeah. Where it's that you don't want to get comfortable either.
Oh yeah.
Because as soon as you feel comfortable, then it feels like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Like you're not doing the right thing, where it's like, I should be churning out more. I need to do more. Oh, I'm in a comfortable spot where it's like, yeah, I'm doing this and I've got this going on and these set up. Should I be doing more?
Exactly.
Like, that's how it constantly feels.
Yeah. And it's but like also knowing that cap too.
Yeah.
Like doing more within the cap. Because I definitely, I mean, even like this week I had to take like a break from like Instagram because I was just like, you know, like had a couple like inquiries that like came back, like other people just like don't respond, or it's like, you know, they go with somebody else who's like part of the game. But like you can like mess with your head enough when like you have like a platform, because most of my marketing is on through Instagram now.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't like that at first, and then I tried some other things which kind of got me off the ground. Like I used like apps like Thumbtack and stuff like that, which were like totally fine. I got like, you know, people from like all over California finding my work and like wanting me to like shoot like in like Yosemite, you know, in San Francisco. So that was great, like kind of like getting myself off the ground as like a destination kind of photographer.
Have you done many destination things?
I would say like for a while I was like over half. I was like thinking about it. Like I've not even shot in Tahoe for like over a year when that's used to be like my bread and butter, which I really want to get back to. I miss it. I feel like I just have not done enough Tahoe stuff for people like know like that's what I do.
Yeah. What was the farthest place you've gone? Or like
Florida.
Coolest farthest where?
I think Florida last October.
What part of Florida?
Orlando.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was actually a crazy story. So this couple found me on, I think it was Instagram. And they wanted their engagement photos done in Yosemite. Okay. So I've done like a lot of Yosemite stuff. Like it kind of sucks because I've not really been to Yosemite for fun in like ages.
Not to enjoy
because most of the time, the first time I went since like COVID, I think I went there for like a grad shoot. Like I forgot. I think they were from Texas.
Okay.
They were visiting Yosemite and found me, I think on Thumbtack or Google, and they were like, yeah, can you do like our daughter's high school graduation photos in Yosemite? And I'm like, what? Sure, that's cool, I guess. I did not expect this.
Yeah.
And then I did a trip down there, and then like I think a week later, no, I actually did a trip down there, and like a week before I went, I had a guy contact me to do his proposal photos in Yosemite the next day.
Wow.
So I went to Yosemite, camped out in my car.
Mm-hmm.
Did like the grad shoot, found a dispersed camping spot because you can't like camp in your car in the park. So you can try to get away with it. I just don't want to risk it.
They're kind of on the ball sometimes.
Yeah, it's Yosemite. So, but then first thing in the morning, they want to do a sunrise proposal. So like I did that in the afternoon, camped, got up in the morning, did that proposal, and it was just like crazy experiences like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, this couple that found me one of their engagement photos, we did them, and they were just like, I was so moved by how like. Because my whole thing with what I do is obviously got to get good photos. Obviously, that's like kind of what I do.
That's what you need.
But before that, or even like before and after encompassing that, is how you treat people. Mm-hmm. And my whole thing is like I want people to feel as comfortable as possible, and trying to figure out like what ways you can go about to make that happen.
Yeah.
And with me, it's usually just like getting to know people a lot before ahead of time. And just like kind of like really being real with like you're hanging out with me and I'm just like taking photos of you like loving your person.
Yeah.
That's literally what we're doing here. And I try not to have that lost at all. And I was talking to them about that. And like it's always like a win for me because usually like the if it is like, you know, a guy and a girl, the girl hires me and the guy is like always like winning him over is like the best feeling ever. Yeah. It's like, you know, I didn't really want to do a photo shoot, but this was like actually super fun. And I'm like, hell yeah, sweet. That's like the best accolade I can get right now.
Yeah.
So like, and that's like what, you know, the guy in the couple was telling me like as we're like leaving, we like went to Taft Point. Have you been to Yosemite before?
Once.
Well,
and we're actually going again in June.
Oh, sweet. That's a perfect time. It's a little bit busy, but like, it's not too bad. Like people like, the only place that's busy is in the valley. The valley can get super crazy.
My wife loves it. We were able to go for like a camping trip with a buddy of mine that we always go camping with. So we, us, friend, daughter, we all went there, had a good time, but we didn't get to sightsee as much as we wanted to. So now in June, we're going to do all sorts of hiking.
Sweet. Yeah, definitely. Now that it's open, go up like Glacier Point Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where we went, and it was the first time I'd been there in like 4 years, and it's my favorite part in the park because it's like the giant cliffs, so you can just see everything.
Yeah.
So I convinced this couple to go there, and like, okay, this is a crazy story. So like, we went there, and they were just like super down for everything.
Right.
They were super fun, and the girl is wearing like high heels. Oof. Wearing high heels, and we did a shot where like I like looked at this when I got home, and I'm like, I cannot believe we did this. Because I got a shot where like I was like playing around with my flash because it was sunset and the sun was going down, and I really wanted to try that out with like some motion blur. And like I was like, you guys don't have to, but if you want to, can you like sit by like the cliff there and like just kind of like be all close to each other and like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And like they sit down and do it, and they do like their like I rarely do like editorial model poses with couples, but sometimes I'm like, I'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And they did it really well. And he's like helping her get up, and like we're on like the cliff face. Like the gargantuan cliff face of like at Yosemite where it's like, I don't know, like 600 feet, something like that.
Yeah.
And she's like helping her up. And like for a second, she like loses balance. And like, I didn't think about it until later. Like this person could have like fallen off a cliff.
This
like,
could have been bad.
And thankfully, I'm insured. We're good. And I'm always like making sure like nothing like this is happening. Yeah. But I was just like, yeah, next time don't wear those shoes or take them off.
Yeah.
Because I like scared the shit out of me.
Have the flat feet.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can't do that.
But anyway, so like after we did that shoot, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna get married soon." Like I think they were gonna say it was gonna be a year out. I think they'd been dating for like a couple of years and like been engaged for a couple of months. And you know, they're like, "Oh, we want you to do our wedding. Will you come out to Florida?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Like that's if you guys are like willing to take me out there, I will totally do that.
Yeah.
And then literally like I send them their sneak peek photos, like not even the full gallery. And I was like, "Yeah, you're doing our wedding next month." And I'm like, okay, that's sick.
Deal.
Yeah. So like within a month, they obviously take care of like my travel, all that jazz. And yeah, I went to Florida in like October and just like, hung out, like did their wedding. They like paid for my hotel, and I got to go like, I rented a car too. So like I went like, sightseed, which like not a whole lot unless you want to see some like theme parks, which I'm not a huge theme park person.
Yeah.
I'm a very outdoorsy person. So I'm like, I'm going to go to the East Coast. I've not been to the East Coast since I was like if I have, it's when I was like super young.
Right.
I was like, oh, cool. The sun is setting over there, not this way.
Yeah.
And that's what
And it was
super rad. But, yeah, going places that far is like super cool. It's just like kind of crazy how it like is like the yin and yang of like, you know, it is scary when work is not coming your way and you can't make that happen. Like the most you can do is just kind of like, I'm going to post on Instagram. I might, you know, network with some people who like maybe can shout me out or something, which even then that's like kind of a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But sometimes like crazy things like that happen, or like something's hit your inbox, or like, oh, this is nuts. This person wants me to do this. Like,
saying yes to it.
yeah. Like I had a couple like from Ireland tell me like inquire with me to be like, oh, can you do our elopement in like Palm Springs? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm totally down for that. So it's been awesome getting like that's like a huge compliment. Like I think it's like a giant like people like are asking you to like leave your town to go to a place to meet them, to like capture them like getting married and being in love.
Yeah, one of their most special moments.
Yeah, it's like a crazy thing.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I really try to like hone in on when I was like realizing like what would make photography feel good for me. Because going back to when I went full time, I kind of really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do.
Right.
I knew I wanted to do weddings. I knew I wanted to do like couples portraits, like kind of like a mix of everything. But then after a while, I kind of like honed in on like what made me feel fulfilled in doing this.
Yeah.
Because there was an element to it where like I am an overthinker to definitely to a fault, but I will think about like, you know, like why, like what, like what's the point of us doing this?
Yeah.
Like not saying like there's no point, but like there's a reason why we're here doing this. Not just like you show up and you pose in front of Tahoe and it's like, cool, this looks cool, but like I
what
like
do you want from it?
Yeah, well, I like the other element of it where it's like we're here for like the meaning of it. Yeah, because I'm thinking to myself, because I've never like, you know, had a photo shoot with like anyone I've like dated or anything like that, but I think about like if I were to, I'd want it to be like this. Yeah, like remind like it, you know, even if you know you're in the midst of like, you know, life together and maybe you're not like thinking too much about like why am I with this person? Why do I love this person? Because sometimes you don't think about it all the time. Yeah. But that should be the point of the moment that we're coming together for. And I really try to cultivate that because like I have a great time doing that because it's like so humbling to be able to do that for other people. And then hopefully 99% of the time, like they have that great time because it's like, oh, it's like my partner that I've known for a couple of years. Like I'm having these feelings of like when I first met them, or something like that. I really try to invoke that because that's how you get those like natural responses.
Take the stigma off of it being a shoot and more of just you're hanging out with your person.
Exactly, and that's like exactly how I kind of realized I like the kind of documentary style where it's like almost like you're shooting video, which is funny because like going back to, you know, my roots. You know, it was like what I mostly did. I didn't do photo at all. But it's like the same thing where it's like you tell people like, or give them like a scene that makes sense. So like, so my whole process is, say a couple is inquiring me, with me for an engagement shoot. I ask them like, what's your story? How'd you guys meet? What do you guys like to do together? So you get down on a more personal level instead of just like it just being like, oh, we're just gonna want to go to Tahoe or downtown Reno or something like that.
Yeah, we're going up to Galena Creek for the third time.
Yeah, exactly. Something. And, you know, so I really try to think of like, you know, scenarios or places that like, not only do they want, because sometimes people just like want like, you know, we wanted like vintage and classy and all that stuff, which is like, you know, obviously I'm super down for. Yeah. But also like putting them in a situation where like, if you're doing that, what makes sense for you guys? Because that's the thing is like, I think about some scenarios that I've put, you know, couples through, like not like anything crazy, just like, you know, I don't like run around the beach or something. Yeah. But like certain things were like, it wouldn't make sense for me to do that, but some things would. And like getting to know someone on a personal level, like matches that. Cause like if I had photos done and I was like paying for them and all that stuff, like I would want something that like encapsulates me. Yeah. And my relationship with somebody.
Like seeing if one of the big things they like to do is go and see movies. And then you can go to cinemas and you can go to like the drive-ins or something where it's
that's even a great idea. Oh, man, that's actually a really cool idea. It's like a kind of night drive-in shoot. Yeah. Super sick. See like things like that. and kind of what like led to that was like having a little more flexibility with like kind of just doing like whatever almost is like when I was first starting out, I feel like all of my photo shoots had to be the same. Like it had to be, they had to be consistent. You know, when someone sees a session, like, oh, we want to be like this. It's got to be like that. And sometimes they can't always be like that. Yeah. So then you're on the spot trying to figure out like, okay, like, oh, geez, like, okay, the light's not like this. They're expecting this. Like, how to make this happen? Oh my God. And like, I just didn't like doing that. Yeah. And then I just found enough couples that were like cool enough to like kind of work with out of those bounds. And it
Roll
was
with the
like, oh
punches.
yeah, like, and you can have that. And I met a bunch of photographers who also work that way, from like all over the country. Like, I feel like it's cool because I feel when I first started, I had like the group of guys that I knew, and then like branching out into like the kind of the wedding photography scene. And then from there, finding other people from like Arizona, from Hawaii, from like the Midwest, from like New York, who like, those are like all the people like I interact with on Instagram, or all like the folks that like, we all have this like shared passion in this way,
Yeah.
which feels super fulfilling. I feel like I forgot the point I was trying to make.
It's about the couples finding their interests.
Yes, yeah. Oh yeah, seeing inspirations from like those kind of photographers, being like, oh, you can do that.
Yeah.
Because I remember like the first couple weddings you get, like not every wedding is like outdoors, like the best setup, you know, like everyone like thinks of like a flawless wedding, and it's like, that's not everybody, nor should it be. And
if you've ever been to weddings, very rarely are they flawless.
Oh yeah,
Like,
exactly. And at the same time, things should still be what you want.
Yeah.
And you know, I found myself trying to like, you know, pigeonhole myself into like a place where like, oh, I need to make things look like this when like I don't have those tools. So how do I circumvent that and find ways to be creative
and make them want to look back on things.
Exactly. So that's kind of why I lean more into like the filmy style, the kind of grainy style. Because if things are like, you know, dark, you can't really you can't make that look like pristine.
Yeah.
It's super difficult. But I also like want to make it something where I can stand by it. And they're kind of, you know, cinematic, grainy style for like, say, for example, like you have like a wedding reception that's like only candlelit. Like you want to make that. You don't want to be like using flash for that.
Yeah.
You could, it would be like distracting and kind of, you know, maybe interesting here and there, but like you want to like document it as it is and not try to like go out of the way to make it like how it should be, quote unquote.
Overproduce it.
Yeah, and like that's been a huge thing that's like been a game changer in like my photography and like my confidence with it has been just like knowing like, oh, I can show up and do I have like the mind of like what I can do in this scenario if it comes up, and like it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Because you also find clients who also have that expectation. You know, it's been cool getting a lot, you know, the changes from like even a year ago to now, getting wedding clients who are like, yeah, can you just document as it is? Just be creative how you are, however you want to be. And it's like, that's nuts.
Buddy, you know who you're talking to.
Yeah. Well, it's also like the trust in that too. Like I never want to like, you know, downplay that. That's always something I'm very moved by.
Right.
Where it's like, I'm like crying reading this inquiry. Oh my God. Ugh. But like, it's so cool. And like, it makes it so like, it's a good time for everybody.
Yeah.
Cause you know, there's like a style of wedding photography that's very, you know, you're almost like a second planner. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely done that. I've definitely been in that position. And, you know, I mean, like you know, back in my old job as a sterile tech, I mean, like I was almost like my own manager.
Right.
And I've been like, you know, in those kind of roles where I like needed to do stuff like that. So it's nothing like out of the ordinary, but at the same time, it's like, it's a lot. It's a lot. Especially when people like have certain expectations, you know, like shift everything to be that. And it's like, all right, this is like too much. This is like not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I really, you know, and some people are really great at that. Some people like that's like their thing. Mm-hmm. But like I just kind of like, I like things to be chill.
Yeah. It puts that extra bit of pressure on you for their special day.
Right. And that should be there.
Yeah.
Because you do have that like a ton of responsibility, but like there's an element of like the tone of it where it's like I said, going back to like, why are we here?
Yeah.
You know, and I talk to couples all the time about like, you know, how are you planning this? Like what's like the main focal point of your day and the memories you want to walk away from and like the mood you want to have.
Yeah.
And that's like the kind of the main thing I try to grasp. Because like, you know, like I said, like weddings are very produced. Mm-hmm. They're very big. They can be depending on what it is. Like there's so many different types of weddings, but like on average they are.
Yeah. And you want the final product, you want people to want to show it off. Mm-hmm. Like we had it the other day, just this week, me and one of the other guys I'm working with, we were talking about our wedding days, and we just showed the pictures of things, and it showed like with my wife and I, when we got married, our food was sandwiches and donuts, because those are our two favorite foods.
Awesome.
So it showed the little stands, and we had pictures from it, and I got to pull the pictures up on my phone and show, and he was like, oh yeah, and then I got my suit here, and he pulled his out and was showing off, this is what the wedding looked like, and this was the ceremony and the reception, and we were just showing it off, and it had a really cool picture of just one that came back that I'm glad was captured, because we were doing the ceremony was quick 20-minute standing ceremony. Just easy, outdoors, got it done, got it figured out.
Where'd you get married again?
In Gardnerville.
Okay, because I think like the last time we were together we did that shoot in downtown Reno.
Right
I think it was
before
like
the
right before the
honeymoon.
wedding. Oh, the honeymoon. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. So
You guys went to Disneyland, right?
yes.
Okay.
So that's kind of our wheelhouse. When you were saying don't like theme parks, if I was going to Orlando for anything, I would find a way. We're going to Disney World.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to go to Gatorland, but it wasn't on like the docket for the day. And I'm like, okay, either go to Cape Canaveral or Gatorland. I feel like Cape Canaveral would be a lot more relaxing because I had a convertible that I rented, so like it seems more fun.
Yeah, make it cool. And then you go to Gatorland, and I just think Joe Dirt was like, lucky the bastard didn't get a ring finger. And so we were doing that really quick shoot or really quick ceremony, and the photographer got a picture of my grandpa just sitting on a bench, hanging out, looking over, and he passed away last year. So that was one of the pictures that my entire family got because he's just there chilling, watching us.
Yeah, and it's like
he got a cool little shoot that
you get them
wanted to look
as
back
people
on.
are, and also like that. Yeah, the meaningfulness of that.
Yeah,
where like you don't know when you're going to see these people again.
Yeah, and you have these nice moments with them.
Exactly. It's like again, like really why I try to like focus on the documenting side of things, which I think. I did a lot of second shooting, which I mean, to explain like what that is, that's just like, when a main photographer has another photographer with them to get like extra stuff.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of that last year. And I basically kind of shot enough to like have like the galleries almost be like a full wedding gallery. And some of them I've sent out to people as like, okay, it's like not my wedding, but I took enough for it to be their own wedding gallery. And it's a great example of my work now. But when you do that, you're not the one, if the photographer is posing them, you're not the one posing them. You're kind of like on the outskirts, kind of like helping them with stuff.
Yeah.
But you do get like those candid moments in the middle of like the poses, like the stuff during the reception, even just like with the guests. And like, I love that stuff. And I definitely like steered like my style to be like, I kind of like this has it as it is. And like a huge word that has been, I don't say trendy, but it was very fitting for this is like storytelling.
Right.
Just like kind of like watching things like as they go and like from point A to point B. Like same thing with like the couple shoots where if you have like a scene that's telling a story. And that's like, I resonate with that a lot more than, maybe traditionally styled stuff. And, who's to say this is like another trend that's going to be like out in like 2 years, but like,
you never know.
Yeah. But like, even then it's like, as an artist, like that's what I prefer to be doing. And like, it's been great, like having that resonate with people because like, yeah, you get little things like that where it's like, your grandfather, like sitting on there's a chair just like watching somebody and maybe he's like a little smirk on his face and it's like, oh, that's like super awesome.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad I just like turned and saw that. It's like always my favorite thing is like getting like the little things. Like I've been trying to share more of like my favorite candids from like the last couple of years where it's like you got this like little random moment that's like on the face of it not like super grand, but it's like it meant a lot, or not only it means a lot to the people that are involved and like also myself and anyone who sees it.
And when it comes back around, people have those to show off.
Exactly.
And it's your work, and now you can continue to grow it. And to kind of step back too, when you were talking about the like stop motion that you were doing, has that been something else you've wanted to dive back into, not just the photography side, but more of like going back to storytelling in that way?
Not really, because I remember how much work it is.
Yeah, and you're getting your fill now.
Again, when I was like a fifth grader, I would go to school and come home, and like again, my dad was so supportive of this stuff because he worked in like he was a bass player in a band for like 20 years, but he's been like doing like stage stuff for like ages.
Wow.
So he was like always helpful with like here's how you set up your video camera, here's how you set up these lights, and like I would come home and like I had this like little set that my dad made for me out of like plywood.
Right.
That was like a little jungle set where I like have like little stop motion dinosaurs doing stuff. And like I'd come home and spend hours doing that. There's hours like take a little clip of video because I wasn't taking photos. Like now you'd like take a photo, put it all together. But like I was like using like a VCR camera.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, I feel old now and I like it, but I really don't. And I want to go back to my parents' place and find these cameras. So like the big ones you have over your shoulder. I had them on a tripod with like a VHS tape
Had the strap right on there.
Yeah, well, some of them didn't even have a strap, but they were like huge. And I would just like did it like to get like a little clip of like a little second of video and then just like move it a little bit and back and forth. And like that was so much work. And like now it'd be fun. But that's like if I'm like there's like certain things I've been kind of putting off to be like when I have like all this other stuff that's not on my plate, I'll kill a day doing this.
Sure.
Yeah, and that'd be fun to do because like some of that stuff is like crazy and
Yeah.
like it'd be cool to do it now as an adult, like knowing more of like what I should be looking out for and what's
the behind the scenes and the intricacies that you can make it work with.
Yeah, like, cause like I would just like, I was just like dumb and like did like in front of like with natural lighting, which like, yeah, over time, like the natural lighting's gonna like the sun's gonna go down.
You can tell the scenes change.
Yeah, which I did kind of like how that looked sometimes, but yeah, so diving in more into that stuff, I mean, it'd be cool to like practice. Yeah, but really this is like the time, like honestly, like even going back to like my artwork, like I am just now finding the time for that because I took the longest break from that I ever had because, going back to when I was starting to do it every day, I would like do little sketch cards every single day to like practice. Yeah. And I think that was a great thing to make it a habit and a part of my daily life where like I just don't want to leave this behind.
Right.
And I just drew so much from like 2018 to like 2022, 2021 mostly. But then, designs got a lot more intricate. I guess I should kind of also really far into this. I'm not really explaining like what I draw and like what exactly I do. So I like kind of do tattoo design. I would almost equate it to. Okay. Where it's like I said, I draw like whatever I want, which is like, stuff from pop culture, like nature stuff, like, using models as references to like just draw the human body. And the way I do it is with like stippling. So everything's shaded with a bunch, like thousands of little dots. Oh, so it's very time consuming. Yeah. And it's really cool because when it all comes together, I think it looks like, in my opinion, like the best kind of art I can do like right now. Yeah. Though I'd love to like experiment more like with painting and stuff like that. But like I said, it's just so time consuming. And trying to fit that in with like this photography career I'm building was really difficult because like I am a kind of person where it's really hard for me to stop something in the middle of what I'm doing to go do something else. Yeah. Like doing that kind of artwork where it's very painstaking and you're just like spending so many hours on it. If I, in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I have to get to this email. I have to get to this. I got to, make this guide, whatever. It's like so hard to focus on. So it was kind of like a fuel to like get all of that in shape. But around like last March, I was just like, I got to take a break. Like I gotta like kind of, cut this for a second just so I can like really make this be what I want it to be. And then like we can weave this back into, my life when it is like more together with my photography business. Because last year was like kind of a huge turning point. Like I said, going back to the meaning of what I'm doing, that's like when I realized that and want to like make everything built around that. Yeah. But with that comes like the presentation, like making a website that like really exemplifies that, like all those things. And I didn't want to be distracted. So now like literally like the last couple of weeks has been me getting back into art for the first time in like ages. Yeah. So that's been fun. Actually, I didn't have time today, but I was kind of doing a whole announcement on my art Instagram about it because I want to get back into like doing more fine art stuff.
That's great. Yeah.
Because if you go on my art page, like first thing is like just pop culture. I'm trying to think of like what is even. I know like there's a Transformer on there that I did for my friend's birthday, and like there's like nothing really like it's a kind of sporadic, and I like that. I like the fact that this is kind of like whatever I want to do, and people resonate with that. Yeah. But I want to kind of get back into the fine art stuff with a mix of like pop culture stuff like that to do for fun because like sometimes it's just like fun to be like, oh, I'm gonna like just draw like this like character in my style or whatever, or this like movie actor or something.
Is that kind of where you keep the guidelines of just the pop culture, or do you have it where you like to focus more on like the realism side of things? Is that kind of?
I think it really just kind of stems from like wanting to keep myself busy. So sometimes it's like you just got to do something easy. Right. So for me, it's like, say, for example, I used to do a lot of fan art. And this is kind of how I got like popular in the first place. I started doing fan art of this video game series called Destiny. Okay. And I liked the weapon design in it. And I would like kind of make designs around the weapons. And like, that's easy because you can just like trace, you have an exact reference. You can just trace that reference and then color it in basically with like different elements. And like, that's a way of like keeping me busy, but it's also easy. And with the more fine art stuff, like if I'm like creating like, say for example, I have a lot of projects right now where it's like still life models, but I want to add like textures of like plants. Okay. Like, like people with like roots coming out of them, like instead of faces, it's like flowers blooming and stuff like that, which is not as easy to do because I don't have a direct reference. I have to like put that all together myself, which is something I really want to work on because I feel like I've been writing like references for like a long time. And that's a skill I want to flex, but you need to have the space to do that.
Yeah. And trying to make something that isn't natural, where you have to come up with it on your own and kind of see like, would this work with these branches? And then you kind of realize maybe that doesn't
Because like the
work as
imagination and the actual work of it are two separate things.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like, I can control like, the shading of this thing or the colors I might want to use, but like actually thinking of like the actual way things work that makes sense. Because, not everything is like photorealistic, but I try to aim for that.
Yeah.
I want it to work, and that requires a lot of focus, a lot of like practice, which sometimes you don't have time to do. So now that I have found this place of photography that feels natural to me, I can like welcome that back into my life.
Right.
So it's been starting by just like having just 2 hours of my day centered on that.
Just doing some drawing.
Just doing it, because it really does start with like, doing it every day.
Yeah. And
like,
keep with the pop culture and kind of whatever kind of comes to mind and sparks the creation.
Oh yeah. I mean, like sometimes it's just like literally like I had an idea. I usually work in sizes from like 5x7 to 11x14s, but the 11x14s and like the 9x12s like take so long to do.
Yeah.
And I have done like a couple events where I've sold my art, mostly at the punk rock flea market, which that's coming off on April 20th.
April 20th.
So next month, I'll be vending there for the third time, and I totally lost my train of thought.
The artistic.
I only have one more time where I can lose my train of thought. I was like, trying to think of like what the point of was like. Well, I guess I was like just like saying, like how that resonates with like people just like finding things like, oh, I love like this, like you did like this thing that I like in this style. Oh no, I remember. It was like most of my stuff that's sold has been the smaller stuff.
Oh yeah,
like the 5x7s. People like my originals that sell, because mostly I sell prints. But the originals that sell are the ones that are tiny, and people like that stuff. So I've been trying to like gravitate more towards like doing more stuff in that size, because in the end you can get the kind of the same amount of detail.
Right.
Like it's pretty much like the same like element, but it's like more like sellable, I guess, which I don't like really saying things in those terms, but like it is the case.
Yeah, I mean it's a business.
Yeah, so it's almost like, so with that size, it's almost like Flash. Like a flash sheet for tattoo artists. Yeah. So I've been like had an idea like, oh, like me and my friend, like we like when I was like 11 years old, I loved the like Michael Bay Transformers movie, and I was like, I've not seen that in forever, and like we watched that recently. And, like I feel like just doing like some quick little flash things of like some characters or elements from this. Yeah, and I've done that. I've not revealed them yet because I want to like wait, because I kind of want to have like a little bit more of my fine art stuff before you throw in like Megatron and shit. So like, but like little things like that would be like, okay, cool. It's a little thing like randomly just came up. I was like, did the outline here. I colored it out, and like now it's done. Yeah. Like it's a project that's done. Bringing back that feeling of like, oh, I like sat down and did a project, and like the feeling of like getting it like another notch in your belt. Yeah. Feels good. But,
that's cool.
I have like a lot of aspirations for that, because I think it's been in that place for so many years. Like at my last time I sold art, I was like kind of sitting there going like, I like my portfolio, but I want it to be something completely different. Sure. I want it to be not a bunch of, things that I like, admittedly, and people also connect with it, so they, like my renditions of that stuff, but it's not as original as I would like. Because I feel like I a lot of, even going back to like, just like starting from a creative like place, like finding your potential and like envisioning how cool that would be to be like different or bigger. That's been a huge thing that's fueled me to be like, I want to like, we're going back to baby steps because we have to like relearn how to walk, after taking a break. But like, I kind of want to see where it can go if I really divest like my energy into that. Yeah. So I know it's there. Yeah. And, a lot of that comes from the emotional side of things, of like being able to like focus and believe in yourself and all of that. But
where you have your cool creative stuff that you've come up with on your own, and then you also have different categories,
like side
the
stuff.
Iconic stuff.
Like there's like times I would love to like have the time to like, I don't know, do a portrait that was like, maybe not this big, I don't know, like 3 feet or something. Yeah. Which would take me forever. I did like a couple, there's a couple of pieces I've done like 4 pieces that are like 16 by 20. Nope. Yeah. I did like some like, it's like so funny because I mainly just draw things from my childhood. Because I drew dinosaurs, and like half of my portfolio was dinosaur stuff. Yeah. But like
Give me a cool Triceratops, I'm all about it.
I think I did do one. I did do a Triceratops.
You're just talking with the tattoos and everything. It's like my wife and I got matching that aren't matching, but it's our favorite dinosaurs. So she got the Velociraptor from Jurassic Park. Yeah. Where it says clever girl on it. Perfect. And I've got the 3 Triceratops that are my favorites. So it's kind of the same design. Yeah. But one's from the movie We're Back. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got Oog on there. And then when I was a kid, they had Extreme Dinosaurs.
I do remember Extreme Dinosaurs.
I was like, I bring that up to people and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But I
saw it on TV for like a second.
Yeah.
And I was like, what was that?
had
That was a dinosaur related thing, and I needed to know what it is.
I had the VHSs, and I had a couple of action figures. So one of them is the Triceratops from there.
Sick. Like the weird ripped Triceratops.
Oh yeah, and you're like, he's an alien of some sort, I think.
It's like make him an animal, but a really buff dude.
Yeah, they had that whole little wheelhouse in the 90s where it was just random things that are all of the sudden superheroes, where it's the dinosaurs that are now superheroes, and it's the mummies.
Wasn't there? There was the shark ones.
They had the shark
Street
ones.
Sharks, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I didn't watch Street Sharks, but I saw it every now and then. Like, that is crazy looking. The 90s were never, it's never going to happen again.
No, those weird creative things where you're like, why is everyone buff?
Yeah, no, it's nuts. And I love that as like a product of their times too, where it's just like, as a thing too, is like, I like capturing that in some of my artwork as well, being like, I like want to like pay homage to like this thing that like just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, and I totally get that with like, what was I say is like I drew 2 Jurassic Park raptors as like the big ones, and it took one of them took me the entire summer of 2022.
Wow.
Which is just like, yeah, like a little like speck like this big, like an inch by inch, that's like not exactly a full black spot, because like I just do black and white.
Yeah.
You have to like dot that until it gets dark enough, and then make sure it doesn't look like you do the dots within the dots, like filling in like little white spots between each of them, and it takes forever. So even like I want to have like the ability to focus and like even do like grander projects like that, maybe even like using like a giant like canvas, like a big pen or something, just to, like see what I can do. And like that's kind of been the cool thing, is like having photography be like, it is like very kind of flowy and very creative, but it's very strictly a business.
Right.
But art, I can just kind of do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And I'm not like trying I'm not trying to like necessarily make it fully monetized, but having it be like a thing where like, if it does, it does. That's cool.
Make it a fun project that.
I want that to be the part of my life where I throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. But I'm throwing things at the wall in the first place, and that itself is commendable. To me. So
which is, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of this industry, is doing what you want to do, flex your creative muscle, and then make a living from it without it being a job. Yeah,
because that's where all the stress comes from.
Yeah,
and that's like definitely been a huge aspect of like this whole process has been like learning with the stress, not only just like being a business, but like also like the support structure and like your social circles and like who you have, like your relationships too.
You're selling yourself.
Oh yeah, you like learn like what like builds you up in that realm once you've like been unshackled, for lack of a better term, from like a quote unquote like, I don't say real job, a traditional job.
Yeah.
And that all
not
like,
a 9 to 5.
Yeah, that all like compounds, and like having that like as we spoke before, like with the business aspect of it has been a huge thing, because like I like realize like you have to take care of yourself, because I like realize like if I'm feeling happy, I can show up with my work way better.
Yeah, you can make it sparkle more.
Yeah, because like I don't like showing up to a shoot sad. Yeah, like that stinks.
I want to be happy
because it affects everything. It's like, and I do pine for the days of going to work. I'm like, oh, I'm like feeling depressed. I'm feeling like super anxious. Well, I can go to work, and it kind of distracts me from that. This, you don't have that, which makes it super scary when that happens. I definitely went through a lot of, and I've spoken about it a little bit like publicly on my Instagram. I feel like there's always like every couple months like a long paragraph that I write about like, hey, here's some like real talk about like this affecting my brain, which I do like that I have the space to do that. Yeah, I think definitely a huge thing with my photography as like a platform is like the space for vulnerability, right? Because I feel like that's how I've always been as a guy, and like just they've never really not like hid my emotions, and I have a place to do that where it's like, hey, like here's an example of that, and like talking about those, having those dialogues, and that would be kind of relevant to what I do, because like going back to the whole like focus on like loving your partner, like why do you like this person, like all these things, it is like very emotionally in tune about like being better people.
Yeah, it's a vulnerable state.
Yeah, and it's been like it's been nice like having that like place to talk about that stuff and have it be heard. And people have like even some people be like, it makes me feel good that someone said this. Yeah, and like talk about
they're not alone.
Yeah, their anxieties with this, because like I kind of like got to a point where like I felt like anxious because I felt like I am not finding people who are like me, like I don't know a lot of like single guy photographers who like do what I do, and like seeing examples of like that success where it's like, okay, I feel like I'm alone and this like kind of sucks, and riding through that and like at least like maybe even being your own role model
Yeah.
has been like kind of like an interesting ride, and like having, again, like I said, a space to talk about has been like really cool. Again, it's very emotionally cathartic.
Yeah.
And you do definitely get like the backswing of that, where, you know, things can feel like very like weighty when they probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know,
you put all that extra pressure on yourself. That doesn't necessarily need to be there,
Yeah.
but it's kind of, you can't help it.
Exactly, yeah, because it does enhance the experience, but also like can, you know, bring it down too. It's like
Yeah.
I think of like this experience almost as like a cosine function, like a wave, where like, you know, normally it's like, you know, little waves, but like, you know, the highs are super high, but the lows can be super low, and it's been
Yeah.
kind of like the process of like, you know, not only just building my business and finding the place where like the lows can be not as like scary.
Yeah.
And I think I may have mentioned this already, but like this week where it's like, you know, I'm just gonna get off Instagram for like a couple days, so I can still do my job as in accordance to that, was just like, you know, responding to people, posting every other day. And you can do that without like getting deep into it and like thinking too much about it, especially when you know, you're having a bad time, like trying to get in clients or something like that, or, you know, like get engagements, which I really don't try to do anymore.
Yeah.
Because I think this is like a losing battle, honestly, with that whole stuff.
Yeah. Instead of dealing with the whole point of, you know, comparing yourself to other people, using it as a tool to help grow your business further instead of just seeing what everybody else is doing, and then now it's like, well, why am I not getting these many likes and doing this?
Yeah, and it's like you have to realize like this is like in your head, and like literally like, you know, taking a break sometimes, like for like, you know, with what I do, and like having that be fine. Yeah, because I used to be like, you know, I have to take a break, but you have to go back into it. So you running away doesn't like help that, and it's like, no, it's fine.
Yeah, it's
like,
okay.
Things shouldn't be so emotional, like so like heavy when they don't need to be.
Yeah.
So finding that balance,
it worse than it needs to be.
Yeah, right. And like learning those lessons and finding that balance, like gets you excited for the future to be like, oh yeah, like I can't wait to see where I'm going to be at like 3 months from now.
Yeah. See where I'm growing and see where I can see where I was to where I am now.
I definitely think about that with like last year, go from like June to like October. Like I could never expected like, yeah, you're gonna like travel all this like you're basically like work nonstop for like 2 months and then like go across the country and then you come back and you're doing like kind of setting it up again, and it's like, all right, that's nuts. I didn't even know that was gonna happen. And, like, and that's been definitely a huge like motivator for like everything. So
which is great. Well, Michael, we're gonna get you out of here.
All right, sweet. I feel like I'm a Yaposaurus Rex.
We keep it with the dinosaur theme. We got to keep it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like I probably just talked your ear off, but it's like, hey, it's like that's part of the deal, right?
That's what I'm here for. I'm here to listen and interject when I can.
It's like Steve's gonna come in and bring a guy to just like make noise and be like, hell yeah.
This is the point of the show.
Perfect.
So this is why we're happy here. Before we get you out of here, go ahead and promote everything again. What you have coming up, socials, anything like that.
Awesome. So yeah, if you just look up Michael Werner Photography, it's WERNER on Google. You can find pretty much all of my stuff, my Pinterest, my Instagram. Instagram handle is Mick Werner, MCWERNER _ for all my photo stuff. And then for artwork, it's just MW Inkworks. On my socials, the MW separated by an underscore, because we always got to be doing that. You got to
have an underscore.
Yeah, you can find all that stuff. With art, like I said, Punk Rock Flea Market, that's going to be a huge exhibition of a bunch of local artists who just like make jewelry, drawings, paintings, like literally anything you can think of. That's going to be happening on April 20th and 21st. I don't remember the name of the venue, but if you look it up, again, Instagram, Google, you'll find it.
It'll be there.
Yeah, we know how to work technology.
You guys can
If you need to find something, you can find something.
Yeah, it's not
seriously.
You guys can do it.
Alrighty.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you again for coming in. You know where to follow all of his stuff at. For us over here, it's Stephen Longley for me, Longley's Line for the show, and Light Styles Studio for our studio here. We'll talk to you guys next week. Cool.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming. I
Of
appreciate
course.
it.